Have you ever seen a tall humanoid creature peering at you from the woods? What lurks in the swamps and forests of Florida? Does Bigfoot truly have a smaller and smellier cousin? Today, we test the believability of the skunk ape.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That's right. Happy Tuesday. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice.
I can't even hear it.
Okay.
I think you're fine.
I'm feeling a little under the weather.
Just gotta get out of there. With some tea or something.
I've been downing a lot of Zycam. It's not as bad as our Halloween.
Very healthy.
Not as bad as our Halloween special for those of you that might have stuck around
Yeah,
then.
I think you had like 12 Zycam in like an hour.
It was a lot.
You almost OD'd on Zycam.
He's exaggerating. I didn't take that many. But how are you doing? How are things?
I'm very excited. I have a special place in my heart for the skunk ape.
Do you? Because you're not a Bigfoot guy.
I'm not, but this is special because when I saw one of the last podcast live shows, they did a whole segment, Marcus did, a whole segment on the skunk ape. And I was like, wow, it's so interesting when he says it. So now I feel attached
So now I have
to
to
it.
compete in your mind.
I mean, in my mind, yeah.
With Marcus.
You're going to be competing.
Okay,
so.
that's fine. I've been eating a lot of eggs lately. Like I'm
That's
back. I'm
great.
back on my egg kick. I like let eggs go for a long time.
I don't like eggs.
Have you ever seen The Second Land Before Time?
Yeah,
I'm like that. I'm like that rapper motherfucker.
Those
like,
egg guys?
He's like, eggs.
Those long,
That's
eggs. There's a whole song.
There is.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Skunk Ape. Before we get into that, we do want to thank our newest patrons, which include Alexandria and Ashley. Thank you both so much for joining our Patreon, supporting the podcast. It goes a long way. There's so much bonus content, like Charlie mentioned last week. The bare minimum, you get completely ad-free episodes.
Bare minimum. At least that.
Now, you might lose some definition in your thumb when you're doing that skip forward, skip forward,
That's
skip
right.
forward, skip forward.
You might not have like abs right here anymore. So.
But it's, that's the...
Could be a benefit.
But I'm excited to get to this one. Sources include, Counter, All That's Interesting, Mysterious Universe, Cryptid Fandom, Keys Weekly, Singular 14, Bfro, Skunk Ape Events, and Reddit.
I heard some names in there I recognized.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of them are staples.
Oh, yeah. Just like, you got your mashed potatoes, your steak.
So what is the skunk ape? Essentially, the skunk ape is a type of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It's a large, hairy humanoid entity. It's known to inhabit the swamps and the forests of the southeastern U.S., but, I mean, it's claimed by Florida. Florida claimed that. They're like, all right, Alabama and everything, it's ours.
Most states have like a cryptid claim. Ours is unfortunately
Loveland
the
Frogman.
Yeah.
Also Ohio Grassman.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as cool as Mothman in like West Virginia.
Right. They can have the grafted monster. I feel like we should have Mothman. I do feel that way.
I love I'm in Ohio. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna argue that we should have Mothman. I don't agree. So, like we're saying, in many ways, Bigfoot is tied to the Pacific Northwest and Honey Island swamp monsters down the bayou and Boggy Creeks, obviously, and Bog Creek are the folk monsters. They call it Arkansas. We got the skunk ape here in Florida, and by here I mean there, because
Florida.
we're not there.
I'm gonna go there soon.
You will be. You're gonna see him. He's gonna be walking around a Tua Tagovailoa jersey,
Dude,
all day. A K Love jersey at night.
I'll definitely see that.
That Vice City Miami Heat jersey.
Is that what that is?
Well, there's
don't
a
know.
style. It's cool.
Okay.
I don't hate the Heat anymore. That was so 2010.
So do you think he's maybe just stinky because he's sweaty? Because he's got all that hair in Florida?
I think that's a very plausible reason.
I've been stinky and sweaty at the gym. Maybe I am a skunk ape at heart.
You're the Ohio skunk ape.
That's right. That's me.
So there have been pictures and footprints and videos of the alleged skunk ape, and which we'll get into later in the episode. I've stuff to show you.
Good.
The audio listeners, go check out our Instagram or Facebook, and you'll see them. If you're watching this on YouTube, I will make sure to put them
Somewhere
in the
the
screen.
vicinity.
So skunk ape is not as tall as normal Bigfoot. That's
He's
like
like
that.
us.
That's why they say that skunk ape is like a cousin to Bigfoot. Yeah, like they say he's like between 5 and 7 foot, sometimes 8.
Okay, but like the little ones,
300 pounds, reddish fur, 4 toes, and the powerful odor of like rotten eggs, sulfur. But like you could be bigger than a skunk ape. And it's a 5 foot skunk ape. Do you think you could take him?
Yes. Yep. I don't know. They're probably wiry. Probably couldn't take them.
You do that thing that wrestlers do where you just start that grapple.
Yeah.
Like, then you smell him. I think he can get you with like the raw onion. Like you start crying.
I've seen bodies. I could probably take this guy.
So let's get into some of the notable and historical sightings. So apparently, sightings of the skunk ape around Florida, Georgia, and Alabama go back to the 1800s. There is a newspaper clipping in Florida from 1818 that explained that a man-sized monkey raided food stores and stalked fishermen. In 1823, a midshipman, David Porter, witnessed the creature and was quoted as saying, quote, "I could see that it was larger than a bear, and yet clearly not a man, but not unlike a large ape. When the shots fired off, the creature seemed to duck before turning and disappearing into the trees. And then, in the moments that followed, a powerful odor washed over our gathering as if a great skunk had sprayed us with its disapproval." Unquote.
I like that, the disapproval.
This is 1823.
Yeah,
I'm talking like now. He's like, no cap. This thing was stinky.
Great disapproval. Can you imagine? So like a skunk ape, but like it's 1800s, so everybody has a top hat and a monocle. So this thing is raiding the camp with a top hat and a monocle.
Even the fishermen have
Even
a top
the fishermen.
hat. That's where they kept their lures and stuff.
Right, it's all in there.
Can't afford a fisherman
Practical.
bag.
Tackle box.
Tackle box. Got it in my hat here. You know, I got a tackle box when I was like 10.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would just open it up and look at it. And I felt so cool. Like I'd open it up, pull the top because it did that little thing.
Yeah.
Look at the different lures and stuff. I was just like, yeah.
Can I be honest? That's mostly what I do with my guns.
I know you're not shooting people.
Well, exactly.
I'm also not fishing. So
I look it up there. I'm like, yeah, that's. But yeah, so I get that feeling.
there are also claims that Native American Seminole tribes have stories about a foul-smelling, strong, and secretive creature, which they call the Esti Capcaki, the Esti Capcaki,
Nice.
which apparently translates to the furry tall man or the hairy giant.
I mean, they nailed it.
Yeah.
Although if he's 5 foot tall, he's not exactly a giant. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe they weren't that tall. We should go back in time. I think that's what we need to
Back
do.
in time, we would be taller than average.
Us
Imagine
and Tom
that
Cruise
life.
be looking down, motherfuckers.
Tom Cruise? I thought he was short.
He's 5'7". Dude, we're short.
Oh,
No, we got Al Pacino,
okay.
and we got, who'd I just say?
Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise. We
Also-
have Tom Cruise and Al Pacino.
Also, was it someone in the NFL, not NFL, the NBA? was
Like
5'7"?
Spud Webb.
I don't know the names. Like,
Okay.
he was, I remember you said he's our height. He represents us.
There's a couple things different between us and Spud Webb.
A couple.
Allegedly, the Seminole tribes would say that he was a protector of the woods, and they say that he would keep away those that would damage the forest. So even when you don't physically see the skunk ape, they believe he's watching you and just kind of gazing over the domain and be like, who's coming in here? What's their purpose? What are they trying to do? And they're ready. All 5 foot of them are ready to act.
Like a guardian spirit of the earthen realm, I see.
Yeah, I don't think they're a spirit, though. I know you like to shift things in. By the end of this episode, the skunk ape's going to be a fairy.
Maybe it's leaning that way so far.
All right, so that's kind of like generalized old-time sightings encounters. But we're going to go not decade by decade, but I'll outline the decade and we'll tell a story from that time.
Cool.
All right, so we're starting in 1929. So we're going from 1929 to 2000. That's our
Great.
span here.
That's when the market crashed.
Bad things.
Yeah, Great Depression started.
So in 1929, an alleged skunk ape sighting occurred in the Florida Keys near what was called the Perky Bat Tower, which isn't there anymore. Residents reported that a big ape-like creature was lurking around the construction site. At one point, it even ran up and started shaking the tower. And kind of going back to what we just talked about with the Seminole tribe, I'm wondering if this is like this is my land, this is my territory, and
Absolutely.
you're building here. So
Yeah.
you're gonna-
Tearing stuff down, knocking down trees, putting, what is this? Some kind of bat tower here?
Perky Bat Tower.
Perky,
Those
a
wings are
coffee
up.
shop for bats here?
A bat emporium, not like a bat sanctuary where you
Yeah.
could also get coffee. It'd be kind of cool.
That'd actually be like almost like one of those like those cafes where you like see
Like cat
cats,
cafe, but it's a bat
bats.
cafe.
It's actually
Like
kinda
fruit
neat.
flies. No, it's not fruit flies.
Oh, no.
Fruit bats.
Yeah, yeah.
Just chill little fruit
Not
bats.
vampire bats.
Yeah, there's,
And that's why they're perky, because they're eating your coffee blood.
they don't take creamer. They just take O positive. In 1942, a man in Suwannee County, which is like between Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and above Gainesville. So it's like in that triangle of Florida places. A man claimed that the skunk ape rushed out to him from the woods while he was driving on an isolated road. And he says that the beast grabbed onto his car and started beating it for 1.5 miles.
Wow.
For 1.5 miles, this thing was just like
slamming
not
his
on
fist.
not on my property.
1.5 miles.
Until he finally was just like, fuck it. It's not worth it.
He like stopped the car?
And this is the 40, so it's not like it's not, you can't go 140 like
it's like
my
a Model T
Honda
car.
Accord.
Yeah.
But it it's probably going like 50.
It's one of those cars that you got to put crank in to start it up.
There's just smoke blowing everywhere.
Oh my god, that is intense though.
Must go faster. Yeah, no, yeah, that's. I don't know what else would be able to do that. Assuming it's a true story.
An alligator?
No, it's a crocodile, bro. Overall, it's just a wild story.
Yeah, no, it's nuts.
1963, here's a report that was actually documented by BFRO, which I don't remember when we mentioned BFRO very recently. It stands for Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. It's bizarre news because I did the story about the Bigfoot and I mentioned BFRO there. I'm like, why is this so familiar to me?
I thought it was UFOs.
Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. Charlie, I don't think you'll ever get in there. You're not a fan.
I feel like we're beefing for BFRO. Yeah, not a huge fan of them.
BT BFROs. Get some of those Anderson Varejao wigs and put them on. Probably Jarrett Allen now.
Sounds funny.
So here is the incident detailed in the follow-up investigation from the BFRO investigator, David Becara. So this is on their website. It's like a legitimate, like almost like not like a police report, but it's like year,
detailed
location, like Gainesville, Northwest 23 Boulevard.
Oh, in Gainesville.
Year, time. Yeah, it's like they got it. They're treating it like it's a legitimate case.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a paragraph where the people tried to tell their own story, and then it was like a follow-up from the investigator. So I'm going to quote that. I got another one later, but we'll get to it. So this is a quote from the investigator, David Becara. Quote, I spoke with the witness by phone, and though it was 41 years ago, she remembers it clearly as that day, and it changed her way of thinking about the world. It was 1963, and that area of Gainesville was much more rural than it is now. Most homes in the subdivision were on several acres of land and a 5 to 10 minute walk away from each other. There was also much forest still standing just outside the homesteads. One warm evening in the late summer, the witness, who was 12 years old at the time, was going to visit one of her neighbor's friends. It was dusk, around 7 p.m., and she was on a light jog on the dirt road that she walked and ran every day. She emphasized that all she heard was the sound of her feet on the dirt and gravel. As she got closer to the area where the trees grew near both sides of the road, she noticed something out of the corner of her eye, to her right, about 30 feet away. Suddenly, a large figure walked out of the woods and stopped dead in its tracks when it saw her. The witness also stopped, and they both just stared at each other in shock, as it seemed they both surprised each other. She got a really good look at the figure as it was quite close. She said she was frightened by its sudden appearance and its huge size, but didn't feel that it meant her any harm. After what seemed like minutes was only a few seconds, the large man-ape tilted its head and looked at her, and she bolted the rest of the way to her friend's home. She described the figure as a man-ape. Ape-like, but more than an ape. It was huge, over 7 feet, she guessed, had a huge chest and huge shoulders. It was covered with brown hair except for its face, which she described as having a sloped-back forehead, large dark eyes. Its arms were longer than a man's, it was powerfully built, and it stood with a slight forward stoop. The next day, her mother woke up in the middle of the night saying someone was looking at her through the bedroom window. The witness said her stepdad went out the next morning, and even though he was 6'4", he wasn't even close to the bottom of the window. The window peeker had to be at least 7 feet just to reach the bottom. Her mother would never tell her what the face looked like. Later that week, the family discovered 4 dead rabbits placed in the mailbox.
Man, it sounds like maybe she picked up a secret admirer.
It's like, I got this for you. I didn't know what kind of rabbit you like. I got a jackrabbit. I got Trix. I got Easter Bunny.
You got a jackalope.
Yeah, they just you like one of them, right? See, at first I was saying like vendetta, but no, you're right. It's like these are for you.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a threat. It's almost like when your cat brings you a kill. I think that's what it seems like to me. It doesn't seem aggressive.
He's like, you look really slow running out there. So eat this. It's protein. It'll help.
Yeah.
They can't see. You had a reaction when I said she was 12. Do you not trust 12-year-olds?
Well, I mean, generally, no. But, okay, you said it was 41 years since it happened, and she was a kid when it happened.
Yeah.
That's a long time. I can't.
You don't remember anything when you were 12?
Not in
I remember hunting Bigfoot in GTA San Andreas when I was 12. I was exactly 12 when that came out.
Anything with that kind of detail when I was 12. That is a lot of detail, though this is a very specific moment. So your incident that happened to you, like 12, 15 years ago now.
Whoa. It was like 11. Let's calm down. I'm not that old. Do I got gray in here?
But do you remember every detail of that?
I remember the details because I said it
Honestly, how many times have
you
you told that story? She didn't have a podcast. You know what I mean? Like, she maybe told the story a bunch.
She told all the frogs and the rabbits in the area.
Watch out, you motherfuckers.
He gonna skin you. I told him I don't like no rabbit.
This happened in Gainesville, you said?
Gainesville.
I have feelings about Gainesville.
Why?
Well, I was in Gainesville for my 21st birthday. My dad was in the hospital. And I was down there with my grandma. And I tried to shoot my shot with like 3 or 4 girls while I was down there. One girl, she took my plasma. And I let her. She didn't just steal it.
Were you there to donate plasma?
I was in the hospital. I was really fucking bored.
Okay. It wasn't. She just didn't. You weren't on the side of the road.
She was like, "Ha ha." No, and I was trying to flirt with her, and I was like, "How you doing?" And she mentioned that she used to work at Five Guys. I was like, "Oh, that sounds like a gangbang." I'd never heard of that. I did. Bro. She laughed really hard. I was in. I was so in. And then I asked another girl out at the front desk, and
well, I think did you wait long enough?
Huh?
Did you wait to find out if the other one like?
Oh no.
No, this where you they talk, man. They all talk. They go to the break room, and you have 3 girls saying the same dude asked them out.
No.
You ruined it then.
The other girl was at the hotel I was staying at.
There's a talk of the town, Gainesville.
Absolutely. No, I was just practicing.
I think the only way that they would talk about you now is if you'd have given them rabbits. Dead rabbits.
Probably. Yeah.
I think you should carry dead rabbits with you at all times.
I don't know.
He's married now.
I don't know if that'd be good talk anymore.
I'll tell all the single men out there, carry just a couple of dead rabbits with you in your attaché case.
Yeah, and
when
don't
you hit the pause
say
button.
anything when you give them to them. Stand there silently.
Find out where they live.
Put it in their mailbox.
Yeah, if they have a P.O. box, that works too. It won't be as fresh because people do. I just have a feeling people don't check their P.O. box as often.
No, for sure.
I got 2 encounters from 1974. I was hopping that year. First story, 2 Palm Beach County Sheriff deputies named Marvin Lewis, not the coach of the Bengals, and I'm assuming, and Ernie Milner, the previous, you guys don't know. Ernie Milner reported that an ape-like creature stalked them through a grove before they shot at it with their firearms. They reported following a trail of footprints where they recovered hair snagged on a barbed wire fence that had been pushed down.
What kind of hair?
Bigfoot hair. Smelly hair.
When was this?
1974.
1974. You think that maybe they just shot at a stoner?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. The second 1974 story is another BFRO report. This one took place in Broward County in July of 1974. So this is closer to the Everglades, like Fort Lauderdale area, lower than the other one. Not quite Miami, but you know. So here's a quote from the follow-up investigator, R. Monteith. He's going by R. He doesn't want you to know. This is his side job. You won't find him on LinkedIn. Quote, "The report is very interesting to me because I grew up in the area, and the skunk ape stories from the summers of 1971 and 1974 are actually what got me interested in the Bigfoot subject. Much of the activity was confirmed in newspaper and television by animal control, law enforcement, and even police chiefs. I spoke to this witness several times on the phone. When he went to visit his sister that summer, he heard strange screams in the yard. His cousin explained to him that, oh, it's just the skunk apes. The bad smells coming from the window at night was also blamed on the skunk apes. Being from New York and never having heard of a skunk ape, he was unsure if his family was just teasing him or not. One night in July, the boys were up late and noticed a large shadow through the curtains in the picture window. They were watching TV and it was dark. The witness looked under the curtain to see what was there. About 10 to 20 feet in front of the window, in the spotlights, stood a tall ape-like creature. It was looking their way, and it seemed to them that the animal saw its reflection in the window and then screamed loudly. When it screamed, it flexed its body like a bodybuilder. The witnesses remember its face as it was so close to the window. It walked along the outside perimeter of the property's chain link fence, and they could see that this thing was at least 2 to 3 feet higher. They followed it through the house, looking out every window. They watched it walk past the house to a small pond near the property. Along the way, they watched it squat down and pick up a watermelon with both hands, and it ate it like an apple. Then it walked to the pond, squatted again, and was using its right hand, scooped up water to drink. The entire time it walked and ate, it had its head turned towards the house. The skunk ape then continued on in a 45-degree angle from the house onto a wooded trail. The trail was a well-used path that both boys used with their dirt bikes and a lot of other people hiked on. He described the skunk ape as being about 8 feet tall, its body covered in dark brown or black hair. It was very broad-shouldered, walking bipedal, and resembled a man but also an ape. It had long arms that hung past its knees. About 2 or 3 nights later, the family had heard about a horse a few streets away that had been attacked. It had jumped from the corral, and the rancher had fired at a dark shape. When the horse was found, it allegedly had hand-like marks on it. The witness's sister and brother-in-law was stopped by a sheriff on the street as they returned home that night and told of a possible skunk ape in the area. The ranch manager had fired shots at the creature, thinking that it could be injured. The brother-in-law returned home, picked up the boys in the car, and followed the deputy throughout the neighborhood. While driving, they saw the skunk ape run from the east side of the road. It hit the deputy's car, bounced off into the street sign, knocking it over, and then continued running into the woods and the swamp. The ranch manager showed up at the time, claiming his bull had been killed. An intense search did not reveal the creature, and his sister later confirms the witness's statement. Unfortunately, her son, his cousin at the time, had passed away.
There's a lot that happened there. Imagine Mr. Universe just flexing and screaming at you going, ah! Yeah.
Is that what you think it did?
Yeah, like a Mr. Universe kind of pose? Like
See,
that?
I was thinking more like a...
Oh. Like a Ginyu Force kind of pose from Dragon Ball Z.
That's
I could
not
say it
what
too.
I was thinking, but...
Same. I can't imagine a threatening kind of pose like a bodybuilder. Like, they seem so silly.
Maybe it's just that, like flexing, like this, like
the showing up the traps out there. And
She's like, come at me, bro. Come on.
well,
I dare you.
But in Skunk Ape, which is
I think he still said, come at me, bro.
and then he picked up a watermelon and ate it like
While looking
apple.
at the house. He's like, what,
Yeah.
were you guys going to eat this? What now?
That's weird. It's outside, right? And then it's probably just growing naturally, which is not something we're used to in Ohio.
There's one person in the house was like, they were like, pick the watermelon. He's like, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow never came.
And then
Do you pick watermelon? Is that,
I
obviously
believe you
must.
do. Yeah.
They don't just show up at your house.
Well, you do if you buy them from the store like a normal person.
This guy didn't put the watermelon in the mailbox.
No,
He did not like these people.
no, he did
But they
not.
scared him.
Yeah, and then he killed a horse.
He hurt a horse.
Hurt a
He might
horse.
have killed a bull.
That's insane.
But the horse probably scared it, I imagine. The bull
Yeah.
probably antagonized it. is my
probably
guess.
is a bull. That's insane. They kill a bull.
That's where you get the primal aspect of this, I think. Is like, this thing isn't, oh, that's a reflection. Someone's inside watching TV. It's like, oh, they scared me.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk around the perimeter and eat their fruit. So I got 2 1997 encounters.
97.
So there were reports in 1997 that several tour guides for the Everglades Wildlife Tour Bus witnessed a Bigfoot-like entity, one of which was David Shealy, who we will be talking more about coming up soon. Another was Steve Goodbread and Dow Rowland. They, along with their guests, witnessed the creature, and they said that it was easily over 100 degrees that day. So in their minds, they're like, I don't think this is a hoax, because who in their right mind in 100-degree weather is going to be out here running around in a suit, like a Bigfoot suit?
I always felt bad for like hairy animals in that kind of heat. But I know they have like different ways of coping with it, but that's just so intense. And I wonder if this skunk ape is dealing with the same kind of situation.
Well, they don't have to put pants on or a shirt.
They don't, but
They
like
could just be free.
they're still covered in fur, you know?
I don't know.
It's like
I'm not
wearing-
Italian.
But listen, as someone who struggles with extreme body hair, you know, it's like almost like you have a fur coat on, I think, at least for them, you know.
for that. Like, you brought it back to them. That was so kind of you. At first, I thought you were getting something off your chest.
I mean,
not
I don't
the hair. Obviously.
struggle with a fur coat of hair.
I think it's an interesting point, though, to be like, we saw this Bigfoot-like entity, and it's so hot outside. It would be insane to think that even as a prank, someone would be willing to do that.
It's a really good point. I probably wouldn't have thought that, but that's right, 100%.
In that, well, you'd probably be like, we saw Bigfoot. It happened.
Yeah, it's my bias.
All right, so the second 1997 story, here's a quote from the source Singular 14. Quote, in July of 1997, Vince Dewar, fire chief of the largest district in Florida, snapped a picture of what some to believe to be a skunk ape near Burns Road. Dewar reportedly came across a skunk ape 15 minutes after real estate agent Jan Brock had a similar sighting of a strange and shaggy creature on the same road. According to Dewar, the creature crossed the road in front of his truck. He was quoted as saying, "At first I thought it was a bear, but bears don't stand up on two legs the way this thing was. Then I thought, hey, who's playing games?" Unquote. Dewar drove up to the spot where the cryptid had crossed, but by that time, it was 400 yards off in the bush. He said, "I grabbed my camera and I yelled at it. It turned and looked at me, but I kept walking, parallel to the road. I waited until I got between two trees, and then I took a picture." Initially, Dewar thought that the sighting could have been a hoax. "I don't know if somebody's trying to play a game or what," he said. "I know a lot of old-timers that used to be serious about it. I just think someone's playing games. I just looked at it and I laughed." Later, though, the chief reconsidered his experience after hearing about other stories from across the county. "It's something," said Dewar. "I never said it was a skunk ape, but it is something." The chief was offered money by the National Enquirer for the photograph, but he turned them down. He said he was surprised by the worldwide attention that the skunk ape had received after being contacted by the BBC, CNN, and Unsolved Mysteries. He said, "I've never seen in my life something, true or not, to take off this fast. But maybe this town needs a big tail. It'll help the tourist business this winter, that's for sure." Unquote.
Does Florida need help with tourist business?
Probably not.
Yeah.
So this is the photo.
I do love Florida. I do love the way like the trees look, the landscape
This is like a
looks.
breakup thing. It's like, I love your laugh. We've had some really good times.
No, I'm a big fan of Florida. Like Steph and I went to one of the national parks there in Tampa once, or near Tampa. It's just like it was like out of like you would imagine a dinosaur movie. It was just
Jurassic Park.
Yes, yeah. It was so cool.
Baker Mayfield
Now, yeah,
in Tampa.
it was in his house. But the photo made me think of that because of the landscape there, and it stands out that thing in the picture. It helps with the circle, but I can't think of what else it would be. I guess that's what it comes down to is I can't say yes, that's definitely a Bigfoot, but also I don't know what else that shape could be. You know what I mean? Like it's
also a very traditional bad photograph of Bigfoot, though. Like,
so this is
this
1997.
is 97, so it's a little bit more
the best they could do.
I feel like that's what we still get now.
Unfortunately, that's true. Yeah, like you can't get a good photo. It's
I
like
think everyone just zooms in so hard.
actually, you know what? That probably has a lot to do with it. It just gets super pixelated.
Yeah, just take a far away one and let the computer geniuses do their part.
But then everyone would say it's fake. Then,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
but you'll know.
Is there a win there?
You'll know. That's the thing.
You have to get right next to it.
If you knew something was real, but you couldn't convince anyone else, how would that land for you? Would you care?
So,
would you
no.
care, or would you just be like, "Hey, I know. Who
That'd
cares
be
what
so
everyone else thinks?"
frustrating. That'd be so frustrating.
So
to me.
you would care.
Yeah, I would care. It's like when you know something's gonna happen, or like it's worse because it did happen and you just can't prove it.
Let's move it to 2000.
Okay.
We're out of the 90s now in the 21st century, just barely. Y2K. In 2000, the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office received two anonymous photos that appeared to depict a large, hairy, ape-like creature. The author of the photos claimed to be an elderly woman who reported that the skunk ape had been stealing apples from her back porch. She said it had an awful smell, which lasted long after it left. So it eats apples like apples and watermelons like apples.
Yeah.
And this picture and this experience became known as the Myakka skunk ape because of where it took place in Myakka. I have those photos as well. This one I feel like I feel like you've probably seen this one before too.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah, I've seen that one. Probably eats apples like my dad ate apples, which is just ate the whole damn thing.
This is one of those pictures that like feel like when you search Bigfoot, like it's not the Bigfoot photo.
Yeah.
You guys know which one I'm talking about. But this one comes up a lot.
When you see the zoom in though, it's almost like I could almost make the argument it's a dog.
You like there's that meme or that photograph of like the shaved dog where it looks like
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It does look like a primate though. 100% to me. It looks
The
like
way
a
it's
primate.
like crouched over.
Yeah.
I could see the argument for a big dog. And then okay, there's also the idea that maybe this is just like some kind of great ape that's not a
Yeah, like it is a primate, but it's not Bigfoot.
right, like a orangutan type thing.
Yeah, no, I think there's an argument for that. So let's enter the I don't want to say self-proclaimed. Actually, that's true. The self-proclaimed skunk ape expert, David Shealy. So David Shealy's pretty much dedicated his life to the skunk ape and proving that it's real. His son owns and operates the Skunk Ape headquarters, which has a bunch of David's photos, research, field guides, and a whole bunch of casts of alleged footprints. Like he has a whole bunch of alleged skunk ape footprints that he's turned into casts.
Dude pays rent on a place to put the evidence of the skunk ape. That's pretty crazy.
So here's a quote from an article, Conter, that it's one of those ones where like the journalist goes and interviews the person. They're like, it was a cool, brisk day as I pulled into his suburban modern home.
Yeah.
He had this picture frame on the wall. And, they set the stage. It was like one of those articles.
Yes. Okay.
Quote, I'm the expert, Dave says. I've spent tens of thousands of hours out here in the swamp in the Everglades. Dave's family first settled in the Everglades in 1891. His father was the fire chief of the area. There were 4 firefighters total, said Dave, as they handled the terrain with care and attention. This was when things were different, before the government arrived. Now, Dave's property lies smack in the middle of Big Cypress National Preserve, and Dave is one of the lone holdouts of a town called Ochope, which no longer officially exists. Big Cypress was the first national preserve in this nation's history. It covers nearly 1 million acres of swamp, an area that's actually larger than the state of Rhode Island. Dave claims to have seen the skunk ape 3 times. The first was when he was 10 years old and playing with his brother near the family property. He had to jump on his brother's shoulders to catch a glimpse. Here's a quote from him. It was walking across the swamp, and my brother spotted it first, but I couldn't see over the grass. I wasn't tall enough. So my brother picked me up, and I saw it about 100 yards away. We were just kids, but we'd heard about it and knew for sure what we were looking at. It looked like a man, but completely covered with hair. The second time he saw it, he was actually out looking for it. After days spent looking, he saw the creature briefly before it disappeared. So the third time David captured on video, so you saw that either it's up here or Charlie already talked about. I don't know how it's going to be edited.
Just hold it still, bro. He's like, oh.
He did do this video after having 17 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
So as far as Dave's concerned, the video to him is absolute proof. Here's a quote from him. Quote, some panel of experts with a woman in high heels and some guy in a suit and loafers sitting around a TV studio in California tell me that my footage is too grainy or my evidence isn't conclusive. Just makes me so angry. Dave tells me as he lights up another cigarette. Quote, I spent more time in these woods than almost anyone else. I've seen people on TV talking about the Everglades that have never seen them down here before. I've proven it's real. I have hundreds of footprints, and I have video.
Bro just got his character assassinated in a sentence. He's got a little bit of a point.
Yeah, I mean, it would piss me off if someone said, if you lived somewhere.
Yeah.
It's one of those, we joke about sports, but like people can say Ohio sucks. We can say Ohio sucks, but it's like y'all who've never been here can't say it sucks. Like, don't just take our word for it. Come here.
Like I can say it's the mistake on the lake, but you shouldn't call it that.
I can say it's the factory of sadness, but you guys can't call it that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny that you say his great grandfather was the chief of police in 1891.
He's a fire.
A fire, you're right.
Firefighter.
Well, I didn't know they even fought fires in 1891.
It was easy. There's swamp.
I
they
thought
didn't
they
have
just
to work
let
much.
them go.
That's why they had time to look for Bigfoot. It was just
right.
the swamp and just took out the fires.
I also wanted to say
I don't think that's how it works.
I also want to say I think a big reason why this thing is quote unquote stinky is because of the swamps. I don't know if we're gonna talk about that at all, but swamps are stinky places.
That's facts.
There's a lot of decay going on in the swamps. Like the whole bottom layer is just decay, and from walking in it, from being in it, it's gonna rub off on you. There's sulfur like boiling out of the springs. Like that's where I think it comes from, and also probably the heat doesn't help either.
I think that's really valid points, Charlie.
Thank you.
I think you're Team Skunk Ape now. I like this.
Kind of am. I also really like the picture of him going.
All right, so here's two things that people think it could be. People think it could just be somebody in a bodysuit. So this is intentional. This is intentional fabrication. So there's like mistaken and intentional.
Yeah.
This one is that somebody's in a suit running around pretending to be the Skunk Ape. It's fake.
Since 1821.
Hoax.
Yeah.
The second option is that some people think that people are just seeing a black bear with mange. So it's not a hoax. It's just a misidentification.
I've never seen a black bear going for a stroll. I've never seen him casually walking like.
Well, you've never seen a black bear with mange. They
It's-
really like rabbits, watermelon, and apples.
Yeah, well, black bears are omnivores. Naturally, a bear is going to walk on all fours.
Well, that's one of the people already said on here that they thought it was a bear at first. I think it was Dewar.
Yeah.
That it was a bear, but then they're like, wait, they don't walk like that.
And they can go on 2 feet. They can walk like that, but they much prefer all fours.
We looked that up for the Great Dismal Swamp
We
Mystery.
did, yeah.
Episode 6, gem of an episode.
It was.
So that is the history and the description of the skunk ape. Now let's get into some Reddit encounters. So before we get to the encounters, I have to ask, how am I doing with Marcus?
Oh,
I'm not standing. I can't. There's only so much inflection I can do with my voice when I'm sick.
I mean, Marcus is the king, but you are comparable.
All right, so our first skunk ape encounter is from Reddit user Impossible Eggs 263. Quote, it was a humid evening in South Florida where I grew up. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the dense palmetto trees. I had with me Bella, my dog, taking her along a wooded journey trail that I would often frequent. As I ventured deeper into the woods, a strange foul odor began to permeate the air. It was unlike anything I'd ever smelled before, pungent and almost unbearable. Bella, usually so energetic, started to whimper and act strange, clearly distressed. Suddenly, the underbrush rustled, and I caught a glimpse of something large and hairy moving swiftly between the trees. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what I was witnessing. Before I could react, Bella darted into the woods, barking furiously. I called out for her, but the only response was this eerie silence of the forest. Panic set in as I ran after her, the foul odor growing stronger with each step. After what felt like an eternity, I stumbled upon a small clearing. There, standing in the dim light, was a creature unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was tall, covered in matted fur, and its eyes glowed with an unsettling intelligence. The skunk ape. There was no other explanation. The creature let out a low growl, and I froze in place, too terrified to move, and Bella was nowhere to be seen. The skunk ape turned and disappeared in the shadows, leaving me alone in the clearing. I spent the next few days searching the woods, calling out for Bella, but she never returned. All I found was her light blue collar that I purchased as a Christmas present a few years back, a heartbreaking reminder of my pet. Haunted by this encounter, I decided not to report it to the authorities, fearing that the haunting might follow. Instead, I shared my story with a few trusted friends and cryptid enthusiasts, hoping to find some solace and understanding. I've since moved away from the area. I never did see Bella or that creature again. I can still remember the unique smell like it was yesterday. It leaves me with goosebumps and chills when I think about it. Unquote.
That's really sad. I think Bella got.
No, that's why I didn't put a trigger. I think she got away. I think she didn't like I don't think she liked the author. She's like, Skunk Ape gives me a watermelon and dead rabbits. And you gave me fucking kibble and bits.
She looked up at the owner and she's like, what the fuck is that smell?
She's like, I hate blue.
I hate blue.
I normally don't say this. A lot of people in the comments were like, that is a great piece of creative writing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people thought this was...
Made up. It
Yeah.
wasn't on No Sleep or anything, though, right?
No, it wasn't on No Sleep. It was on a Bigfoot Reddit thread. So it doesn't scream to me. I think it's because of the flowery language.
Yeah.
It's not written like, I just had this terrible encounter.
Yeah.
It was written like he had thesaurus.com up, when he was doing
Yeah,
it.
it was written like he graduated high school.
His response was that he dwelled on this for a long time and wanted to write it in a way that people would
really
engage
well.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, however you want to take that. If you believe in the skunk ape, I don't think the story's ridiculous.
I don't either. I think probably the most far-fetched part is that he ran after it.
Yeah. He's like, I
pretty
gotta
brave.
make myself look like the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
I ripped off the sleeves of my shirt to reveal my large biceps, strength training at least 4 times a week, and I charged after it.
And then Eggs.
So the next story is from Bottle Snatcher, underscore in there, bottle_snatcher. Quote, I had a weird experience once. We were doing a bonfire in an area just outside some woodlands. After about 30 minutes, we all heard this howling coming from something unsettling close. Me and 2 of the dudes there got flashlights and went further to take a look. We got about 50 yards away from the bonfire, and the howling seemed to get more aggressive, and we heard what sounded like a tree breaking. Being native Floridians, we were all armed and decided to go deeper into the woods. A few minutes later, we came across a tree, which looked like it was freshly broken, and the break point was easily at least 7 feet high. We never smelled anything, but everything else we experienced fits the skunk ape MO.
That's creepy. It also harkens to like the grass man and like breaking branches, breaking trees.
Like the knocks, like
yes.
knock, knock, knock.
Yeah. So it does feel like that same like relative, like similar traits.
He was like, this is the branch I keep all my watermelons. And it just finally snapped. He was like, no. And that was the howling.
Yeah.
They didn't notice they were stepping on broken watermelons.
So sad.
That covered up the scent.
I see.
It smells like Bath and Body Works out
It
here.
smells delicious. A good candle probably would help out the skunk ape. Just carries Febreze with me, conscious about his scent.
Just instead of the foul smell, it's just the foul smell
Axe.
mixed with Febreze. Yes, it's Axe.
It's Axe.
What they need to do is it needs to be the Dr. Squatch needs to come out with something.
Something, yeah.
They should. I'm sure they have something.
Something skunk ape?
Yeah.
For sure.
Our next story is from Southern Belle, 1980, also on Reddit. Quote, I live in Florida between Ocala National Forest, shout out, data remember, and Tiger Bay Wildlife Management Area. After we moved to our house 5 years ago, we would hear big animals walking through the woods. It covered ground quickly, but the steps were slow. It sounded like a person walking, but in pitch black dark and through thick palmetto, and huge. One night, it jumped in our ditch, crossed our road, jumped the ditch across the street, and jumped the neighbor's 5-foot fence incredibly fast, and this thing stunk. The animal smelled horrible. We could go outside and know that it had been around because it smelled so bad. This always happened in August to about November. Every year, we would start hearing and smelling it. It always seemed to come when the palmetto berries were ripe. I'm thinking it migrates, almost like it's following the berries. For the past 2 years, it hasn't come, but I mentioned the story to a neighbor who got hold of a Bigfoot group. The people from the group told me that they had a report of one being shot in a nearby Ocala National Forest. It seems so weird to me that our mystery animal stopped coming after a report of a skunk ape being shot. Now we're up to last night. I was taking my dogs outside to go potty. We were walking through the woods toward the septic tank hill when we heard howling. It sounded kind of like a dog, but way bigger, as big as a cow or a bull. I know what livestock sounds like, and this wasn't it. My dogs and I went inside. Later, my husband was taking the dogs out again around 2 a.m., and he also heard the growling. It wasn't an animal he recognized either. He took his phone and filmed some of it. He says there were 2, and they were calling to each other. Neither of us are exactly believers, but I love mysteries and curiosities. Today I realize that it's August, and I bet we start hearing stomping in the woods again and smelling that smell. Unquote.
Calling to each other. Hey, want to go hang on Septic Hill? Oh, it's weird, yeah.
Did you bring the berries? No, I'll grab some.
What the hell is a palmetto berry? I have no idea what that is.
Well, you know palmetto trees.
You know, like a palm tree.
Yeah, Edo. I like that they're putting creative thought into it. Like they're migrating, they're following the berries.
Like how I follow pizza chains.
Pizza chains.
Yeah, you know. Yeah.
All right, our last Reddit story is from Torvosaurus 428, and they've entitled it "My Possible Skunk Ape Encounter 2018 in Ocala, Florida." Shout out, data remember again. They didn't put that. Quote, I'm an anthropologist with specialization in primatology. I was at the time working on thesis topics for my degree, and a subject of intrigue for me was the various non-human primates of Florida. Now, before I get anyone excited or disappointed, I'm referring to the multiple varieties of monkeys that have been imported to and gone feral in Florida. Namely, I was looking into research on a particular type that had been taking up residence in Central Florida since the 1930s. Long story short, in the 1930s, jungle adventure movies were a big draw in film. You think Tarzan and King Kong. So the river cruise captain of the crystal clear Silver Spring decided to spruce up his tour with real monkeys on an island in the riverways. He didn't know that these monkeys were the most adaptable of all monkeys and are very at home in the swamps of South Asia. So the first batch of monkeys promptly swam the 30-foot gap to reach the mainland before he even got his boat revved up. Since then, additional releases and the monkeys adapting to their habitat very well has resulted in their numbers and range growing. Stray monkeys have cropped up hundreds of miles away. Couple this with them spreading into the nearby Ocala National Forest, which is over 430,000 acres of ideal habitat, and you can get an idea of how pervasive these primates are. So I was out on a survey with my kayak to find the monkey troops to scout out the area before I even really considered major research. The good thing is I found the monkeys. It was no problem. So next, I was relocating to another spot in Ocala to see if I could find any troops of the monkeys there. I loaded up into my truck and had the clearance to go into the deeper portions of the National Forest access roads. I was going down a dirt road with a large canopy and timbers on either side. It was lightly raining, but nothing too intense. I'd stopped my truck to check the maps I'd made to find the most likely locales to find the troops, and had turned it off to save gas. I'd been checking things over for a couple of minutes, and I noticed everything was really quiet. And suddenly, something came out in front of me about 20 yards down the path. Now, animals moving about was no surprise. I'd actually seen a few deer and a large boar just earlier that day. But the size, posture, and color were clear dead ringers. There was zero doubt in my mind when I saw this thing. It was a Bigfoot, or as they're titled down here, a skunk ape. I didn't think bear initially just because of the size and its posture. I could very clearly see the long legs and the swing of the arms. I could see well-defined fur, thicker on the limbs and back than the front, with a few bald spots here and there, and it seemed like the hairs had rubbed off or fell out. The coloration was almost a medium brown with a reddish tinge, but with bits of gray and black present. The skin was dark gray where it was visible, but not quite black. I didn't see the face head on, but the look was very ape-like in the uncanny sort of way that humans and apes both look. It wasn't exactly human, as I've heard a few reports say, but it wasn't one-to-one with any known ape that I know of. Still, it fit the underlying apeness feature that you don't see in monkeys, and it's a little hard to describe. The hairs on the head were longer and kept a length across the back of the neck and shoulders, creating almost like a cape or a mane of sorts, though not as extreme as in a male lion. It had bits of pine needles and scrub stuck in the hairs, as I did see irregularities that looked like plant bits here and there. It strode across the road in a few long steps and only paused briefly when a gunshot sounded off, before moving off into the shrubs with a faster pace. I immediately turned the truck on and drove to where it had been. The hard-packed dirt didn't preserve tracks, and when I got to where it had been, I could see the brush moving, and yet the ape was not visible. It's amazing just how quickly something gets lost in the shadows and the timbers, even when it's just a few dozen yards out. No tracks, but I can affirm one thing. The smell was pungent, very musky, thick, and almost like a territory marker that some animals use. Not really rotten, though, like some people say. Now, the reason I'm agnostic on this, as a scientist, I do need repeatable evidence. Yes, I did see something that I think is very telling, but it was at a distance and only for a few seconds, and I don't have it on video. Additionally, I didn't get any physical remains or anything like that. The rain made finding any remnants of tracks almost impossible to discern. The importance here, though, as natural and animalistic as it looks, sound effect technology these days is very impressive, and there are a lot of hobbyists out there. Someone with the right funds or skill potentially could make a photorealistic ape suit that could at least dupe someone at a distance. Someone could be dumb enough or bold enough to pull a stunt like this in a forest with hunters. So, is it possible I saw someone in a convincing suit? Maybe, but logically, I'm inclined to think otherwise, and that's for several key reasons. One, it was an extremely hot day. And if they're going to be pulling a prank, why not wait for a cooler day where it's a little bit more comfortable and you're not going to sweat to death? Two, this was a fairly remote spot in Ocala. If they want to prank someone for notice and laughs, why go in the middle of nowhere on this random road? It makes no sense. Three, this was hunting season, and there were deer hunters afoot. There's no doubt the source of the rifle shot I heard was a deer hunter. So if I was going to put on a Bigfoot suit, let alone a very good one, in a prank idea, I'd prefer it not to be in a place where I would be at risk of getting shot. Number 4, the brush was very dense, and there's a lot of short branches and saw palmetto. Chances would be a suit like that would be at risk of getting ripped to shreds, and that would just damage the whole look. So could it be impossible that it's a hoax? No. Would it have been extremely difficult and potentially very dangerous? Yes. Yes, it would.
Bro, this guy, he does not trust his own eyes. He's like,
Did you imagine this as a guy?
yeah.
I don't know. I imagine this as a female.
I whatever. Some scientist nerd. But he doesn't.
Some fucking nerd.
They don't trust their eyes. They're like, well, yes, I did see it very clearly with my own eyes, but I couldn't repeat it.
I would not trust. You wouldn't have any doubt.
No.
Well, I think it's fair.
Broad daylight?
You're also not a scientist.
That's true. If I could just get a sample.
Well, the only other, they eliminated the fact that it wasn't another animal.
Yes.
They pretty much came down to the idea of, was it a Bigfoot or was I seeing someone in a suit?
That doesn't make sense at all in the slightest to me.
Why?
They're in the deep part of the Ocala forest.
yeah.
It's deep. There's some random service.
We're talking about for those who have heart.
Yes, like deep cuts from home. Yes, like, real deep cuts.
I think they also didn't want to be just another submission. I was like, I saw a skunk ape. It's real. I think they wanted to be like, you can trust my submission because I'm giving you some
Probably.
context. I'm second guessing it. I'm giving,
They
theories.
also write like they're a scholar.
This was formatted APA.
Yeah.
We got asked to peer review.
It's just, it's good evidence. It irritates me how questioning of their own eyes they are.
So those are our encounters of the skunk ape and the history and the legends. Let's get to the discussion. All right, Charlie, I need you to give my sickly voice
boy.
a break.
So
what are your thoughts?
There's so much going on. This almost felt like there was more evidence and more credible encounters than just the regular Bigfoot from like North Pacific.
Well, this is so focused too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like geographically focused.
Just Florida.
And it's not like all of search. You're weeding out every Bigfoot. It's a catch-all,
Yeah.
So you're gonna find a bunch of nonsense.
Yes, it just felt so focused, and like there was good encounters and good testimony. I wish we would have maybe got one specifically from Native American like folk tales, but that's okay.
They have a hard time logging Reddit from 1823.
Maybe, but the fact that there even was like, oh, they say it was this thing. It sounds exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It's hard not to go.
It's like the hair, the size, the smell is very distinct.
Yeah,
Now the height there was variation.
that's
'Cause
true.
it went from like 5 to 7, and then you got all the way up to almost 9 feet in some of these stories.
Yeah, but you got people like
people.
me, like you and me, and then there's also people like
Wembenyama.
Weminyana,
Jokic.
Yeah, him.
You're good.
Like there's variation in people as well.
Yeah, same thing.
The visual evidence that we got is very compelling. The couple photos from, I was thinking specifically the one from the backyard, and then the guy,
The Myakka.
what's his name?
David Shealy?
Shealy's video where he's all over the place, and even just the stills from that too are really good too.
No, there is a lot of evidence. Things add up. There's evidence.
Yeah,
I
that
think-
first photo was kind of shit.
We got our believability scale. That's
Yeah.
what we're back to that now. We're back to the scale.
Yes.
So we have believable, viable, skeptical, unbelievable. And I think if you believe in Bigfoot, I feel like this is easy. If you don't believe in Bigfoot, and we're not even like, we've already have an episode on Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You can, if I have the power on video, I'll put it here. If you believe in Bigfoot, which we've already covered, that's where you get into
This is super easy.
like, is it interdimensional?
Yeah.
Is it a cryptid? Is it a primate? Like, we're not really doing that here because it's not like,
This-
does Bigfoot exist?
it
It's like,
leans-
is this one thing real?
It leans more into the being in the forest surrounding cities. in this version. But even if you don't believe in Bigfoot, this is still really hard to not go at least viable.
You know, it was interesting is the last encounter we had where they were talking about the monkeys that were imported.
Yeah.
I mean, they're coming out and saying all these monkeys got imported into Florida and now they've made themselves at home.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm saying, could those be the skunk ape?
Oh, those monkeys?
Yeah.
Oh, they're big enough.
Probably not. I don't know.
No.
I'm not a monkey expert, so when they say these monkeys, I'm like,
monkeys are not
apes, gorillas.
Yeah, apes are bigger creatures.
And this person doesn't seem like the person accidentally misused monkey for
absolutely not.
ape.
Absolutely not. I've been actually, for some reason on TikTok, it decided that I really wanted to watch a lot of lives about evolution and Christianity.
Oh, cool.
I think because I made one comment on one of them.
Like, oh, we gonna
so
send
now
it to him now.
Spamming me, but they keep misusing monkey versus ape, and it irritates the shit out of me because apes are much different creatures than the monkeys, and there's no way that you can mix that up in reality.
So where do you land on our believability scale for the good old skunk ape?
I have to go believable. I have to go believable.
I love it. I love it. I love it. They're rocking a K-Love jersey and listening to a Day to Remember. I love it. I'm a fan. Skunk ape, believable. So that is our episode on the skunk ape of
Ocala.
Well, the Florida, the southeastern Bigfoot.
The Florida skunk ape. There you
Florida
go.
skunk ape.
There we go. We got there.
Thank you for listening. I was gonna we've done so many listener submissions. I was gonna thank people for that. I still thank everybody who submitted their stories. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But thank you, skunk apes, for submitting your stories.
Thank you for existing. Thank you for having all the articles. Thank you, Beefro, for being such a good source.
Still kind of beef and Beefro.
I need to use Beefro more. It was legitimate, the way they outlined everything.
Yeah, it sounds. I mean, they want to get be credible.
So if you're enjoying the podcast and you want to let us know about it, a great way, if you're on Apple, is to go to reviews and leave a 5-star review. Oh man, that's great. Loving the show, guys.
Yeah.
Fairies aren't real. And just 5 stars right there. If you're on Spotify, though, which we know 67% of you are, you can comment on every single episode you want. And you might find an episode from 5 months ago and you're like, are you guys going to see this?
We'll see it.
We'll see it. We might not approve it, but we'll see it. Let me tell you a couple of comments that we got on our last episode, which was the Dreams of Destiny, Fields of Dreams.
Fields of Dreams. If you dream it, they will come.
Jake says, I listen to you guys for a couple years now, and I've always loved the episodes. And to be perfectly honest, I've always been curious about putting faces to the voices that I listen to. And in my mind, you guys are the 2 guys from Catfish.
No.
Don't ask me why. That's just what my brain rationalizes to. You can see us. If you follow us on Instagram or you watch us on YouTube
Is
now.
there a little corner on Spotify where we are as well?
Yes.
Yeah, we're there.
You know what? Keep us that way, though, Jake.
Yeah, it's more handsome.
I'm okay with that. Bethany says, if they were spiritual enough that they could describe the whoosh sound of the parachute opening at the last second as the flapping sound of angel wings as he's lowered to the ground. Maybe not, though. So she's saying the whoosh of the parachute from our last episode with angel wings.
I mean,
it's kind of cool.
It's definitely a thought I had.
You didn't say it, though.
I did not. She had a good thought. I'm trying to validate her.
And Kitty said, I feel like my cat genuinely enjoys falling asleep to this podcast. That's how you know it's good.
I mean, I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. But again, Tyler said if you want to leave a review, I'm going to ask you to leave a review personally. It means a lot to us.
You should want to do it, though.
You should want to do it, but I'm asking you. And if you like the show and you've heard enough of it, you're like, I want more. God damn it. You can go to Patreon and you can listen to so much more going on. There's mini episodes, interviews, games with Ben. Hello, Ben. Hello. Sounds great. But there's so much going on Patreon. Please join us there and unlock a whole new world.
I was wondering if that was okay. So thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre.
Podcast as bizarre as you are.